The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join your host, who is a multiple #1 international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer. She's the founder of Genuinely-You and has 30 years experience of helping people step into their genuine, authentic power. And now, here is Gina Gardner, your host of Leadership for Life.
Hello there, and welcome to today's show. Today's show is all about how we manage challenge. Now, you may be familiar with the phrase, when you're given lemons, make it into lemonade. Lemons by themselves can be very tart, very bitter, quite hard to drink pure lemon juice. But when you actually create something different out of it, lemons can not only make lemonade, but lemon drizzle cake. They make a stir fry more interesting. They are so versatile. And the parallel there is that challenges happen in our life. Some of the challenges are those which are accidental. Some of those are caused by other people. But ultimately, we choose moment by moment whether or not we let that challenge define us, or whether we use that challenge as the rocket fuel to help us grow and develop. Now, we are living at a time when the world is facing many challenges. Even the most privileged of people face challenges within their life. Ultimately, the degree of challenge that we face is going to make a difference in terms of how we feel about it. But the principle behind it is exactly the same. And I'm going to be joined by my guest, Gwenno Dafydd, and I'm so pleased to have her on the show. She is a lady who has faced many challenges and has used those challenges to create for herself a life which is full and rich. Those of you that know my story will know that I have faced my own challenges too. And for me, they've been a great opportunity to learn. And after the break, we're going to be discussing how you can frame what's happened and use that to help you. But I want to use part of this part, to talk to you about how what we focus on makes a difference. You'll have heard me talk about focusing on what you can do rather than what you can't. And how powerful it is even when things are really very challenging, very difficult, that if you focus on just the thing that you can do and you take that first step, however difficult and long and challenging the journey may be, by taking the first step and then the second and then the third, you will gradually move towards your target. For me, that's a metaphor that's, more than a metaphor. I've learned to walk twice as an adult. And for me, that first step was incredibly challenging. Then it led on to the second. And even now, 17 years after having an internal spinal stimulator, before which I was completely wheelchair bound, I still use a wheelchair at times, but it doesn't define me. My wheelchair is my chariot on fire. It's what enables me to do things. But I was speaking to somebody earlier today, and their challenge is around alcohol. And one of the things that we were talking about this morning was addiction and being addicted to something, whether that's a substance like alcohol or drugs, or shopping or sex, or needing to be right, or an addiction to the process of drinking. Was much more around her addiction than the drink itself. It was the sense of deadening emotions. And actually, rather than face her emotions, her challenge was that learning that emotions are nothing to be frightened of. learning how, when you manage your emotions and you look for the lessons in those emotions, and that you engage with them rather than try to bury them, that they have much to offer. And although we talk about negative emotions, in reality, there is no such thing as a negative emotion. What there is a negative way of dealing with it or reacting to it. So, for example, anger in and of itself is not a bad thing. And there are times when we need to get angry because something is completely out of line with our values. But it's how we demonstrate that anger and what we do with it that makes the difference. Our challenges come in every form. You think about it. The first challenge is getting up in the morning and what sort of day you are choosing to have. Most people don't choose. Most people get up and they go straight into their habitual way of being. And then something goes wrong. Perhaps there's not enough hot water, or the cat has been sick on the carpet. And that will then colour their whole day. And things then tend to go from bad to worse because they're focusing on all of the things that are going wrong. Now, put that into the context of a bigger challenge. I've worked with many people who've been abused, for example, and I do not want to come across as if I am making light of that. I am not at all. People who are abused or bullied, there's no excuse for that. But as the victim of that, it's your choice whether you choose to stay a victim and allow the past to take over your present and your future, or whether you choose to do something about it and to deal with that past baggage and recognize that you are a survivor. And through that recognition and through working through that challenge, recognize that you are resilient and strong and that you have courage and that you have the wherewithal to live a full and joyous and happy life. If you stay stuck in the abuse or stay stuck in the bullying or the unfairness, and you are a victim to that, that will take over your whole life. That will colour every decision that you make. That will mean that you are consistently pulling the portmanteau, the great big chest of baggage with you everywhere you go. Now, it takes inner work, as do all of these challenges. And I think it's important for me to say right from the get-go that when I or any of my guests, and today it's Gwenno, are talking about the challenges we face and how we've overcome them, don't be under any illusions that there are dark days and there are difficulties and you have to dig deep. And some days you don't do it well. But it's how you manage to recognize that tomorrow could be a better day, that the sun is going to come up whatever you do, even if it's behind the clouds, the sun is there. Your choice whether you focus on the darkness or you look for the light. I suspect that there are people who are listening to this who are going through really difficult times, perhaps financially, or within relationships, or within their business, or they've lost their job, and who are sitting there saying, "What's all right for you? You've got no idea what I'm going through." And in reality, that is actually true. What I do know, because I've worked with so many people who've come to me with all sorts of issues, is that challenge, whatever that challenge may be, however difficult that challenge may be, that's not the story unless you choose to make it your story. Your story can be how you've overcome that challenge, how you found ways through, rather than the story beginning and ending with the challenge and the fact that you can't take it any further. I've met some amazing people in my life, people who have become bankrupt, people who have been abused to an enormous extent, and who have overcome that. People who have had physical challenges, illness, disability. Challenges come in so many forms. But ultimately, what sort of life do you want to live? That's your choice. How do you want to turn up day by day? What are your beliefs telling you? That you are able to manage it, that you're good enough? Or are they constantly whispering in your ear, oh, yeah, you can't do that, or that's not possible? You'll have heard the story many times because I share it, because it's so powerful, of having done the fire walk when I could only walk a few steps and being absolutely thrilled. I turned around and the guy behind me had no legs below the knee, and he simply turned himself onto his hands and needed a handstand across hot burning coals. That for me was a demonstration that I was limiting, and I think that we all limit to some extent. So I hope that out of this show, what you will recognize is you are equal to the challenge, and that you'll find Gwenno's story inspiring, and that you will choose to live your life in a way that makes the most of every day. Because even on the darkest of days, even on the most terrible days, there are great things, and that you can enjoy those and you can focus on those. So don't go away. We're going to have a quick break, and then I'm going to invite my guest, Gwenno Dafydd, in, and we're going to talk about her story and the similarities between her story and mine and how we've turned things round. So please, see you in a moment.
You have been listening to Gina Gardner on Leadership for Life. We'll be back after this quick break. Want to get the best out of life personally and professionally? Are you ready to step into a life which excites and fulfills you? Well, the right place for you is Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. We will share with you stories from inspiring people, a wide range of guest experts, and lots of practical strategies to help you get the very best out of your personal and professional life. Leadership for Life is a radio and TV show focused on helping you live a happier, more successful, and fulfilling life. Join international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer, Gina Gardner, live every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Become the leader of your own life. Gina Gardner's #1 international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment, provides you with the foundational principles on which to become the best leader of your own life. It's available as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and as an audio from genuinely-u.com, or also from Amazon. Every one of the principles have been proven to work for the countless people who have used them, including the author. Now, let's put them to work for you. If you're ready to discover your true leadership life design, accelerate your journey with an invitation to join Gina for a Leadership for Life VIP Day. Choose your journey of self-discovery where Gina will help you navigate your way to happiness, success, and fulfillment. To find out more, email gina@genuinely-u.com. Welcome back to Leadership for Life. Here is your host, Gina Gardner.
Hi there. Just before I introduce Gwenno, I just want to remind you that as very proud members of B1G1, that if you interact with this program live or you send an email for asking a question or making a comment, that we will donate on your behalf to B1G1, Buy One, Give One, which is an organization that helps people who are in poverty, who need help. There are projects to give clean water, to help the environment, a whole range of things. And we are very proud members of that. So please help. Also, when you share these programs, the more people who download them, we will donate meals for people as a result of that. So without more ado, let me tell you about Gwenno. Gwenno Dafydd has a master's in women's studies. She's a life leadership and master public speaking coach who works globally from Cardiff in the UK. For those outside the UK, Cardiff is in Wales. And if you lived in the UK, you'd know because her name is so Welsh. She enables her clients to overcome life challenges and be truly successful. She brings 40 years experience in business at a senior level as a broadcaster, performer, published writer and lyricist, equality and diversity expert, to transformational coaching. And through her knowledge and expertise, she helps women to smash the glass ceiling. So without more ado, I would like to welcome Gwenno.
Well, this woman sounds amazing. When am I going to meet her?
She certainly does. Hello there and welcome. It's so lovely to see you.
Well, you too. And it's an honor to be on your program. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, such a pleasure. I think it would be really helpful for our listeners and our watchers if you shared briefly your story, because it's one that has much to offer.
Okay, well, I'll try and keep it brief. So essentially, I grew up in West Wales, was passionate about running. I was captain of all the netball, athletics, maybe not netball, but cross country. I was a runner from the age of 11 and basically was going to be a physical education teacher. That's all I wanted to be from the age of 11. Went to college to study to be a PE teacher and had to change direction at the age of 18 because I'd fallen a few months before going to college, and I'd hurt my back and I'd actually hurt my knee, but it made the whole thing was in my back affected my knee, etc. So anyway, I had to change direction. So at the age of 18, my life just collapsed. I suppose that's the sum total of it. It just collapsed because all my dreams.
Gwenno, I'm just going to stop you. There is your microphone or something is rubbing, and we're getting quite a lot of rustling, which means it's quite hard to hear you. Could you just have a look and see what might be catching on something?
I don't know what could be catching. It could be my sparkly top.
It could be. Okay, just be mindful of that because we don't want to miss anything that you've got to say.
Okay, I do move around a lot, so I try and be static. So anyway, so I had to change direction at the age of 18, which was devastating. I was in a very dark place. I would say, looking back, that I had depression, but felt very isolated because as a leader, as a captain, I was very self-resilient and didn't know how to ask for help. So that was the start of my journey to chronic pain. But I was told that I had to change direction, otherwise I'd be walking with a stick by the time I was 30, which I didn't fancy. And so I had to stop running. I had to stop all activity for 5 years, which I did. Then I went off to Belgium and I lived there for 5 years, and I was a busker and I did all sorts of really bohemian type things and had a wonderful time. And then went back to my running. But unfortunately, since that time, I've had 3 major car accidents. It's my magnetic personality. Cars have a tendency to be drawn to me. And so I now live with a debilitating chronic pain condition, which started on a daily level August 1988. So since August 1988, I have been living with levels of pain which veer from, if I'm not doing much, it'll be bearable and I won't have to do anything about it. I just know that it's there, to absolutely unbearable and I have to go to bed, and that's about it. I've had 4 blue disability badges consecutively. I've been to 2 pain clinics. I've had a denervation procedure. I've been on tramadol, cocodamols, you name it. And so, but by this point in my life, I've actually learned how to live with it, and which wasn't my intention because I was always going to get better. But it never happened. So I live with this on a daily basis. I call it the tiger. I tamed my tiger, and I do quite well. I have made a success of my life. And one of the things that you were saying earlier, which I did want to talk about, was the fact that you've got to focus on what you can do and not what you can't do. Because there are lots of things I can't do. And I don't even think about those things anymore. I used to grieve them, but I don't anymore, because basically I can still talk, I can still sing, I can still make people laugh. I'm a fabulous coach, and all of those things I can broadcast. I can do all of those things, even if I'm desperately unwell and I'm stuck in bed with my hot water bottle and my chronic tiger pain. So been a journey.
It's interesting. Those people who've heard me speak before know that I had a serious ski accident in 1983, and chronic pain is something that I've lived with since. And it's an interesting journey, isn't it? Because you either...
I like the use of that word. It's a challenge.
It certainly is. But ultimately, we have a choice, don't we? That if you do everything you can to alleviate the pain, that makes sense, to go through different treatments to see if you can manage that. But then there comes a point when you've tried many, many things, and that you recognize, well, I'm talking about me now, I'm interested in your take on it, that it's time to stop searching and actually get on with what you have.
Yes, I agree with you. And for years and years and years, I spent a fortune on osteopaths, chiropractors. I went to see neurologist. I went and paid, I found the receipt recently, I paid £150 20 years ago to go and see a man who said, well, I can put titanium rods in your back and it'll cost you £9,000, but there's no guarantee it'll work. So I decided I wasn't going to do that. Where did that point come? Well, actually, I suppose I'm still hoping that maybe something, but I don't focus on it anymore. But I did actually find something in the United States. I went out there and I had a program commissioned to do an interview with my mentor, who was celebrating her 90th birthday in Los Angeles.
Goodness. Yeah.
And the flight over there was it was horrendous. The pain was absolutely unbearable, and the pain was unbearable the next day when I had to do the interview. But it happened, and looking back on it, I can't remember the pain. It's like childbirth. I just remember the great things about that event. Anyway, I came across an amazing DVD in America when I was out there, which was 2004. And I brought the DVD back to Wales, and I worked so hard on it. And what I found in it was a way of manipulating my own spine, because I've been involved in 3 major car accidents. One had 4 vehicles involved in it. And so I have hypermobile vertebra. So what that means is that the spine isn't as stable as it could be. And what happens is it will, when I stand too long, walk too long, or twist in the car to pick something up from the back, that'll put my spine out. Now, what I mean by out, it's not out to play, out to have a drink, or out to the cinema. What I mean is it's out of alignment, and it traps something, usually a nerve or something that will press on the nerve. So then, of course, it's the sciatic nerve, which goes all the way down the leg. So then I have something called paresthesia, which is a numbness. But from that point of finding the DVD, I was able to put my own spine back in, and I went back to my running. And in that sort of little window, I actually managed to become a Welsh Masters athlete, and I got my international vest for running the 400 meters. Thank you very much. And
I'm impressed.
And then I had a knee operation, and then so I suppose it was after that point I just thought, well, there's nothing that can be done. I'll just have to get on with it. And although I don't run an awful lot now since the knee operation, because I've got 3 metal pins in my leg, I do run a little bit, so I can manage tops 2 miles. But my back will go out. But then I know that whatever I want to do, there's a price to pay. And the price is I have to manipulate my back. I've got to crack it back into place. But if it's worth doing, then I'll do it, because I have one life. and I have no intention of the tiger becoming the master. I am tiger tamer, and so I live a relatively normalish life, you know. And most people, if they saw me, would think, "Goodness me, she's incredibly fit for her age," because I am. But I also have a disability, and have had since August 1988. I don't like to think of myself as being disabled, but I do have a disability.
I actually think disability is a metaphor for life. I think those people who diss their ability, who have limiting beliefs, are in many ways more disabled than I, who still use a wheelchair, yourself. But what I'd like to focus on now is the work that you do, helping women break through the glass ceiling. Tell me how that came about, and what are the principles that you share with people that help them to break through that glass ceiling?
Well, I've always been a feminist, and I realized I was a feminist when I went to Belgium, and I went to a place called Maison Blanche. And at the age of 21, I heard about genital mutilation, which shocked and distressed me. And I realized that that's what I was. I was a feminist. So I've always been very, very concerned about enabling other women.
Yes.
And I'm very active in a political way. And I do a lot of stuff for the People's Assembly, but I've done, you know, lots. I was recently in Greenham. I walked 17 miles. Yes, I managed to do 17 miles with a couple of spinal twists on the way. So I went and did, because in my early 20s, when I came back to Britain from Belgium, I started working as a performer. And I've always worked as a performer since 1979, really, when I started doing my first radio broadcast on BBC Radio Cymru. And I've worked as a performer, as a broadcaster since then. And then I found that in my mid-30s, parts for women were really, really disappearing, and very quickly. And so I decided I was going to be involved behind the camera. So I went to do a master's degree in women's studies. And that was in social science, which was looking at women in society, how they were affected by all sorts of elements. And so that gave me an actual professional qualification to be a feminist. And then for 10 years, I became an equal opportunities advisor and expert for the Welsh Assembly government. And I went around companies and gave them advice on flexible working patterns, work-life balance, maternity benefits, all sorts of issues to do with women in the workplace. And then that expanded to women in the workplace, to disability issues, to race and religion, and then LGBTQ issues. So I've been involved in a professional way for a long time. And when I came to the end of one of the contracts that I had with the Welsh Assembly government, we had to re-tender for the work that we had been doing. And I'd been doing it for 10 years by that point. And I just thought, I don't really want to be doing policy after policy after policy. So I thought, well, what do I actually like about this work? And I thought, I love the coaching element of it. So I went off and got qualified as an ILM level 7 equivalent leadership coach, and worked with women. I love working with women. And but I also work with men. And this book that I spoke about, which is called Stand Up and Sock It to Them Sister, Funny Feisty Females, is really a deconstruction of the glass ceiling through the prism of my passion, which is women in comedy. Now, the glass ceiling is the glass ceiling in whichever area that you work in, be that politics, education, religion. The glass ceiling is made up of the same structures everywhere. And you're asking about some of the things that I would say to people. Well, there are some, the most important thing is get yourself a mentor. I said about my mentor, I was very lucky to have a writing mentor for over 20 years. And she was a personal friend of the French singer Edith Piaf.
Right.
And my mentor was fantastic. She always believed in me very strongly with all the writing work that I do, and also the performing. So you need to have a really good mentor. Now, I do a lot of pro bono mentoring. I work with a young woman in Pembrokeshire on her comedy. I also work with a young man in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, and I work with a young woman in Toronto. And so I believe that it's very, very important, if we've been someone who's benefited from mentoring by someone, then it's our duty to not pull up the drawbridge, but to enable other women to learn from us. So role models are very, very important as well. We had very few role models when I was growing up. I had 3, in fact. I had Joan of Arc, because she was brave, Florence Nightingale, because she was brave, and then I also had a woman who was a Pembrokeshire person. She was called Jemima Nicholas, and she rounded up some French soldiers when they tried to invade Britain and got them to surrender on Goodwill Sands. So for women in Fishguard, we were brought up as being feisty and quite fiery. So those role models, people who have those values that we want to link into. I want to feel brave. I want to feel that I'm resourceful, that I can, do whatever I choose to in life. And for those, the role model I've had for the longest part of my life has been Edith Piaf. I first encountered her in my life at the age of 21 when I was a street singer in Belgium, and her life was so inspiring, and I was inspired, and I thought, if she can do that, if she can rise from rags to riches, then someone else may have that potential as well. So those 2 things are crucial. Get yourself a role model, get yourself a mentor, and if all else fails, get yourself a kick-ass coach, which is what I do. And I love working with people. And because I have the performing skills and also the leadership qualification, I'm able to do something that most people can't do, because I believe very passionately that a great leader is a great public speaker. And I had a client yesterday, and he came to me and he said, I absolutely love what I'm doing, but I'm absolutely petrified of speaking in public. I have to stand in front of 600 people next week, and I have to really be my best possible version. I said, great. Where are you feeling at the moment about this? Out of 10. He said 3.5. I said, okay. We worked together, and I did quite a lot of work on imposter syndrome, which is something that a lot of women suffer with. And at the end of the hour-long session, I said, where are you now? And he said 6.5. So, I love transforming people. I love enabling people and getting them to the place where they want to be, so that they can be literally the best possible versions of themselves.
So let me put you on the spot, okay? Let's say that I am a woman who's come to you who doesn't believe in herself. What would be the things that you would focus on in order to help me or another person start to believe in themselves? What are the 3 pieces of wisdom that you would give them, or 3 challenges that you'd give them, however you operate?
Well, I'll try and find out what the barriers are. Someone has told you somewhere that you can't do this. So firstly and foremostly, I would try and root out who that person is. And I don't want to be giving away too many of the secrets, but I do something called anchoring, which is a neuro-linguistic programming method, which works fantastic. It is like magic. It really is. So basically what I would do is I'd take them back to a place where they felt supremely confident, and I do a little bit of deep breathing with them, and we'd get them back to that place, and I would root that, and I would make it solid so that they can access it anytime. Now, I do that myself. If I do that, I am in Bute House in Edinburgh, and I've just given Nicola Sturgeon a copy of my book. I can access it like that.
Can I just say, for those people who are listening to the podcast, that what Gwenno is doing is that she's rubbing, is that your wedding ring?
Yes.
And so anchoring is a really powerful NLP technique where all of you will have had experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, that were powerful, and that a smell might take you back to that place, or a piece of music is evocative and will take you back to that feeling and that place. But you can use NLP to help you identify a good place and then anchor that, so you can by clicking your fingers or rubbing your ring or whatever you choose to do, take you back into that place of power, and make you feel well resourced. So it's quite difficult because we've got the mixture of TV and radio to make sure that people on the radio can actually know what's going on as well as those who are watching the TV.
Okay. Well, can I go back to so you asked for 3 pieces. The second piece is, one of the things that we do is the limiting beliefs that we have are usually given to us by ourselves. So what I try and do is I will try and split the person into 2 people. One of them will be the good cop. The other one will be the bad cop, for want of better names. So what I'll do is I'll devise a methodology. And with some people, it's animals. With other people, it'll be human beings that they know. And for me, I've told you about Jemima. Jemima is my good cop. My bad cop is Maisie Weems, who used to tell me that she didn't like me at all, Gwenno Williams. And all I can say about you is you've got a good, strong voice. So whenever my bad cop is giving me a hard time and telling me that I'm useless or whatever, I'll get Jemima to stick her with a fork. That's what I do for me. And then the third thing I would do with a person is I would just say, okay, give me evidence to show that you can't do this. And they won't find any evidence because there usually isn't.
No.
So those are the 3 things.
That sounds absolutely great. My version of the good cop, bad cop, and it actually came from a client. We talk about it, the parrot squawking.
Oh,
and, yeah. And in the same way with a live parrot, you'd put the cover over the cage. Well, if you want the kind way to do it, you put the cover over the cage. But the client said, do you know what? I think I'm going to just shoot the flaming parrot. And so when she hears that voice, she imagines a great big gun and goes, and the parrot is just a pile of feathers. But whatever the technique that you use, it makes sense for you to recognize that you're in control if you choose to be, or you can let that voice in your head take control and tell you you're worthless, or you can take control and recognize the wonderful person that you are. Now, every guest on my show, we ask them to choose a project from B1G1 and choose 3 different projects a month for us to donate to on their behalf. Have you chosen which of the projects that you would like us to donate to on your behalf?
Yes, it's the top one, which is, I think it was about education. Education is key, absolutely key. And, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Education is key. I used to do direct theatre and education projects when I was in my 20s. And one of the projects we did was about a school in Africa. And, you know, they have so little. And I know now with Fidel Wabenga and Kakuma refugee camp, they have so little, and education is the key to progress in people's lives. And I know that we all want water, etc., but education is absolutely key to progress. And women don't get as much education as boys generally. And I used to sponsor children, and I sponsored girls every single time because I was very aware of that issue. In the developing world, children, boys are prioritized, and I wanted to prioritize girls. So yes, education.
Sometimes our projects have been, we've done a lot for the Dalit girls in India and offering them, they're the Untouchables. But the project this month is actually a global project, and they've got sub-projects going on all the way around the world. And so we'll be donating on your behalf to help provide, education for those who otherwise wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
We're running out of time now, Gwenno. So I know that you've got a special offer that you'd like to let people know about. And where can they get hold of you?
Well, the special offer, yes, get in touch with me. Anybody can have a free conversation. And so, initially to see if you want to work with me. So that's the special offer, really. They can get in touch with me through my LinkedIn is the best way, because LinkedIn shows that you're a professional who's really interested. Or you could, if you wanted to, get in touch with me through Facebook. So.
And the details are underneath on the banner, but we'll also have them in the show notes. So it just remains for me to say a huge thank you very much, and wish you well. And we will be back after the interval. Please don't go away. But Gwenno, thank you very much for your contribution. It's been great.
You're welcome. Thank you.
See you.
You have been listening to Gina Gardner on Leadership for Life. We'll be back after this quick break. Want to get the best out of life personally and professionally? Are you ready to step into a life which excites and fulfills you? Well, the right place for you is Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. We will share with you stories from inspiring people, a wide range of guest experts, and lots of practical strategies to help you get the very best out of your personal and professional life. Leadership for Life is a radio and TV show focused on helping you live a happier, more successful, and fulfilling life. Join international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer, Gina Gardner, live every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Become the leader of your own life. Gina Gardner's #1 international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment, provides you with the foundational principles on which to become the best leader of your own life. It's available as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and as an audio from genuinely-u.com, or also from Amazon. Every one of the principles have been proven to work for the countless people who have used them, including the author. Now, let's put them to work for you. If you're ready to discover your true leadership life design, accelerate your journey with an invitation to join Gina for a Leadership for Life VIP Day. Choose your journey of self-discovery where Gina will help you navigate your way to happiness, success, and fulfillment. To find out more, email Gina at genuinely-u.com. Welcome back to Leadership for Life. Here is your host, Gina Gardner.
Hello there. I just want to spend the last few minutes of the show talking about the season of Goodwill. Now, as we record this, last week was Thanksgiving, a time in America when people get together. It's very family-based, friends, and it's a time of gratitude. If you think about the first Thanksgiving, it was gratitude that they had, the Pilgrim Fathers had survived. Now, survival is quite interesting when you talk about Thanksgiving, and we have Christmas, and we've got Hanukkah, and lots of different religions have their festivals or have a festival at this time of year. And I think it goes back to the fact that we're going in the Northern Hemisphere, going into a time of darkness. And so there were festivals that were designed to bring people together and to offer a hope in those darkest days, ready moving forward. Now, Thanksgiving and Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you're talking about, whether, whatever the celebration, bringing families and friends together can be the most wonderful experience in the world. It can be a challenge. And for those people who are hosting, it can be even more of a challenge because you've got all of the work to do. And I have now spent time helping so many people who are much earlier in the year start to dread those holidays because of the outfall when Uncle Fred and Auntie Bertha have had too much to drink and they're rowing, and when the childless couple are going to be constantly asked, when are you going to have a child, or the person who's on their own, when are you going to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And just the pressure that we put on ourselves that these holidays should be perfect. And we have a blueprint for what that perfection looks like. And of course, that blueprint of perfection and the reality rarely turn out to be the same thing. And if you're one of those families or groups of people who create an amazing holiday where everything goes smoothly and it's just wonderful, then I am so pleased for you. But there are many people who struggle. And sometimes it's about, how do I give my children the things that they want and for things that they deserve, but I haven't got the money? Or how am I going to manage? I've just done Thanksgiving and now I've got to manage Christmas, or I've got to manage having 18 people to dinner and all of the work that creates. And one of the things that I've found is that there are ways to manage that challenge really effectively. And I've created a little program called the 12 Days of Christmas, or 12 Days of the Holiday. And I would recommend that you go and have a look. It's at genuinely-you.com. You'll find it there. But it gives you some real practical strategies of how you can deal with the holidays, whichever those holidays may be. And it's called the 12 Days. Basically, it's a take on the 12 Days of Christmas. The first day of Christmas my true love sent to me. And each of those offers you very, very practical ways to make it easier, whether that's catering or managing children's expectations, or getting other people involved. Or it may be that, not actually having the family round for Christmas this year and wanting to go away. Whatever it is, there is something there for everybody. It's a time to be kind. It's a time to be kind to yourself. And those who watch the show regularly or listen will know I make a very significant distinction between being kind and being indulgent. Now, I know that holiday time is a time to be indulgent in yourself, to yourself, but the difference between kindness is self-care. Kindness is not assuming that everybody will know that you are drowning, but you will say to people, can you help me with the vegetables, please? Or would you get the table laid, or can you do this? And being very direct about what you're asking, but asking it in a very neutral way that doesn't set up that tension between people. There is a lot of work involved, but there are little tricks that you can use that will help you. So, as you know, I struggle with energy. I love to entertain. So one of the things that I do is I will create my roast potatoes by parboiling the potatoes, and then while they're hot, brushing them with oil, or if you like goose fat, it works with goose fat, or if you're a vegan, you do it with oil. Salt, bit of garlic, bit of rosemary. I let them cool. I cling film them, and then I pop them in the freezer. On Christmas Day, all I need to do is to get them out of the freezer, frozen, and pop them in the oven and add an extra 10 minutes to the cooking. I do the same with parsnips. My stuffings are ready. Everything is done well in advance. The sprouts can be done 4 or 5 days before Christmas and just put them into a plastic bag, take all of the air out, and then tie them up. So lots of different tips like that. So it means on the day, you're not absolutely exhausted and that you can enjoy spending time with your people. There's also help there if you are on your own and you don't want to be lonely. Lots of ideas of how you can make your Christmas special. And one of those ways is to think about other people. Random acts of kindness can make a lot of difference. So you can do a random act of kindness by actually sharing this show with other people, and sharing the other shows, because every show that is downloaded, we give a gift of food or water or education or medical support, or we help the environment, or we help people who are out of work get into work. All sorts of things based on the UN 17 goals that they have to end poverty and to bring people into the 21st century in a way that is living and thriving rather than barely surviving. So you have a way of helping that doesn't cost you anything other than a little bit of thought. we've got lots in December coming up. Next week, I have Samantha Lozelle as my guest. She is a lady who has the most amazing story to tell. They talk about challenge and overcoming that. She's a very special lady. She's a great friend of mine, and I'm really looking forward to introducing her to you. Whatever your situation, recognize you're the common denominator. It makes sense to become the leader of your own life. Take care. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.
You have been listening to The Leadership for Life with your host, Gina Gardner. Make sure you tune in to W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV next Thursday and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for more Leadership for Life. If you missed any part of this episode or just want to hear or see it again, you can find the archive of the TV show on Talk 4 TV's YouTube channel and the podcast of The Leadership for Life on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast.